Welcome, welcome, welcome to Write Club, where we're going to endeavor to write together because when you're in a community, for some reason, the muse and this mystical thing called creativity likes when we gather. She likes when we're in community with people, and somehow it changes the cellular vibration of when we're writing by ourselves. People think that writing is this thing that we do in the cave. We go retreat, we write, and then we come out with this brilliant piece of work. And that's rarely, if not ever, how it happens. What happens is we have an idea, we speak it to someone, they hear it, and in their hearing it, we see their reaction, we take it in, and then we have another idea. And then we have another idea, and then we take it deeper. So like I said, there are no rules to Write Club, except you have to have your favorite pen, your favorite notebook, and you have to sit your tuchus in that chair, your butt in that chair for that time. So the way it's going to work is we're going to look a little bit at something of the structure, then we're going to go into a free writing session, and then we're going to share. And in that sharing is where we expand. That's the part of Write Club. That's the part that we don't talk about. And that, just like there are no rules to Write Club, that is the number one rule. We don't talk about anything that we're sharing. This is a safe space for us to be able to share our stories, our creativity, our deepest, writing is a cathartic experience. Even if you're writing a fictional story about a Martian who's having a love affair with someone from Uranus. I just had to throw that joke in there because I'm a big kid. But those two alien beings having this love affair, and we're writing it like this West Side Story, Romeo and Juliet. As we're writing it, we actually uncover our deep hurt from one of our earlier romances that was an unavailable, impossible love story. Everything we write is cathartic. We don't realize that until we're sitting writing. So those are the rules. This is a safe space. We're going to share, we're going to expand, and those are the rules for Write Club. And now, for today's session, I want to ask, today we're actually going to work on a little bit of an outline, because I'm assuming that there's a lot of us who are in various stages of our writing. And some of us are planners, and some of us are pantsers, and some of us are planters. And so we're going to get down to the bottom of what that is. So there are some authors who are planners. They sit down, they make a book plan, and then that plan starts at the beginning, methodically goes through every single subsection, chapter, storyline, weaves the whole narrative to get to the end, and they have a plan. And then when they sit down, they follow the plan. Then there are pantsers. Those are the authors that sit down and go by the seat of their pants. Literally, and they will say, well, I can't know what the characters want me to, where the characters want me to take them, where the book wants me to go, where the muse is guiding me. Those are the seat of their pants kind of people. The great thing is with planners is that they already have the plan in place, and very rarely are they caught not working. Like Ernest Hemingway was a great example of that. He would know exactly what's coming before his next session of writing. He had it planned out. Flying by the seat of their pantsers kind of writers is really great because creativity just pours out of them until it doesn't. And then they don't really have a direction for where to go. So Stephen King is a great example of that. As we all know, Stephen King is prolific. If you actually read his memoir on writing, he will say that part of his being prolific was because he was on cocaine for most of his books. And he says, I wish I would have been there for most of those books. Like, I wrote Cujo in a weekend. I can't even remember. I wish I was, because that sounds like a really great book. So he wasn't even there. So he was just going by the seat of his pants. It flowed through him. He had absolutely no need to plan. And so here we are. We are actually going to create something that's a hybrid between the planner and the pantser, and that's called the planter. And just like in skiing or in your garden, there are plant boxes. Skiing, you're planting your poles a little bit ahead of you. You know where you want to go. And just like with anything in life, where your focus goes, your energy flows. You know that when you're driving down the road, 99% of accidents on a dark desert highway will happen right into the telephone pole. There's miles of highway that the car could have gone into, but it's because when the car starts to spin out, the driver looks at the telephone pole and goes, no, 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 not there. And because they're focusing there, that's where their eyes go. So we're going to learn in our writing to actually create plants along the way so that we can start focusing on where we want to go. So where we want our story to go. Sound good? So how many of you, show of hands, how many of you would you say that you're a planner? How many people would say like that there's, how many of you are pantsers? Fly by the seat of your pants. Yeah, more pantsers, creative folk, right? You're coming to a night called Write Club Creative Crew, pantsers. Fly by the seat of the pantsers. And how many of you get that planting your focus along the way would actually ease up a lot of the writing, would kind of have you a little bit more prolific? Like if you could just sit there and have the muse come once and plant a lot of your thoughts along the way once a week, that you might then have fodder, you might have material to go for the next 7 days of writing. 7 days of writing that you'll actually have what to write about. Who would love to have a direction to go with their writing? Like, who would just love to end that frustration around, I know what I want to say, but I don't know how to get it down on paper. Yeah. And it is completely hard, just like in the garden. If you don't have the planters, you're going to put seeds in the ground. You're not going to know where they are. They're not going to flower. They're not going to bloom because you won't know where to water them. So all we're doing is creating a container, a planter to put the seeds in, and we know where to water it, and then give it some sunshine, give it some air, and it'll grow. How's that sound? So we're all converted planters. We're going to plant our way along the way. So what that means is taking a book plan or a hello, welcome in everybody who's just coming in. What that means is that we're taking the direction now of a template. We have to work with a template in order to plant what it is that we need to go. Who here is writing fiction in a sense of fiction? Okay, who here is writing a nonfiction memoir style? Sort of like a fictional story, but that it's covering part of your life experience. So that kind of follows a different template in a sense, or an outline. Who here is writing a teaching memoir? Something more like a self-help, a how-to? Yeah. Okay. And then the last one is, who here is writing a prescriptive nonfiction? So something like an authority, a book about not so much your own personal life, but about something that you have an authority on. Okay, maybe a little bit of melding along the way. So I'm going to say it doesn't matter what kind of book you're writing, you still need to have an outline of personal stories woven in there. So today we're going to actually outline what a personal story looks like, or what a story looks like. And so if you are writing a fiction, it goes for the whole book. If you are writing a memoir, a narrative memoir, it goes for the whole book, right? It's just stretched out. If it's just a short story that you're weaving in through nonfiction books, it still follows the same template. So we're actually going to dive deep, like I said at the beginning. Even if you're writing an alien romance story, you're still tapping into your own personal experience. So they say, write what you know, and you're going to tap into, like, how many of us here have kids? How many of us here have been a kid? So saying that you have no experience, all of us have had some experiences of being human, like the human experience of falling in love, the human experience of rejection, the human experience of loss, the human experience of being on Zoom and having your dog barking in the background. Does everyone hear that? So those human experiences come up for all of us. So it's about, how do we relate that? So that's what we're going to work on today. So today it's going to be all about free writing and sharing what we free write for. So get yourself comfy. I'm going to give you the rules, the guidelines for a free writing practice. So number one is be prepared. Set your timer. Today we're going to write for 20 minutes. You won't actually have to set your timer. I'll set the timer for you. Get comfortable. Remove all distractions. Have a notebook and extra pens handy. We're going to train our muscles, like our brain, our writing muscles, our creative muscles, to actually know that when these things are triggered, like the notebook, the pens, the chair, that this is going to be like a 20-minute deep dive. Start off your page with the date and a certain topic. Like, so for instance, today's could be Write Club, could be Creative Crew, could be, June 24th, writing, day one of my writing adventure. Something, give it a topic so that it has a scope. So, and that's sort of like creating the intention of the topic. So this will keep you grounded in the day's lessons and help you reference your writing when you begin to build your story bank down the line. Because, sometimes you'll have that moment, that epiphany of like, oh, I remember that thing that I wrote. What was that again? And this way you'll be able to look in your book and go, right, there was the intention for that day. I'm connecting it to something. Another of the rules for free writing, don't stop writing. Do not stop writing. You keep writing. You don't stop to edit. You don't stop to rephrase, to think, to censor. That's what I call the itty bitty pity committee in your brain, or the itty bitty shitty committee. You do not stop. Don't go back and reread what you wrote until after the free writing session is over. So no rereading, like you're just free flowing it. Trust your pen. If you don't know how a word is spelled, trust that you will understand your own writing afterwards. Stay focused on the topic and the image that arises. If you keep your pen moving, you'll bypass that inner censor, that itty bitty shitty committee, or the resistance, or the editor, or the critic. And if you're really lucky and you stay with it, eventually you'll even bypass your ego. And that's a really tough nut to crack. On that, don't judge your writing. It's your ego judging. If you reach a point where you can't think, or whatever comes up, just write it down. Even if you can't think of what to write, don't resist. Write, I can't think of what to write. Just keep writing. Take a breath, relax your shoulders, loosen your grip on your pen, and whatever comes up, let it come up. Very often, when we're blocked in that throat chakra, it comes up in our jaw, and our jaw gets stiff. So open up your jaw. No one's looking. We're not looking. Open up your jaw. And if nothing comes up for the duration of the session, accept that. There's always tomorrow. You're making a commitment. Above all, do not go back and read what you've written until the time is up. Tell the truth, even if it scares you, especially if it scares you. You might have things come up that you didn't even know you thought. Let your writing find its flow and form. Allow your writing to organically take shape as a poem, an essay, a rant, a speech, a dialogue. Even if you think that's not your style, whatever comes, let it flow. And even if you think it's an essay and there's grade 9, high school essay writing rules that you followed, or poetry writing, or there's a meter and a tempo that you have to, do not follow those rules. Break all of those rules that you know No one who has ever, the biggest thing that my friends who have taken PhD in literature have always said, it has ruined their writing, because no creative work has ever come out of a PhD in literature because there's too many rules. So don't follow the rules. Don't worry about grammar, syntax, or sentence structure. That there's a time later for that. Allow your writing to surprise you. Be passionate, write about things that are important to you, show up to write from today, every day. This builds your creative muscle. And also, if you practice daily, your writing will be more passionate, livelier, and more astonishing. And the greatest part is you'll also start to really recognize your voice, which is ultimately the most important thing. And then when the session is over, we're going to take a few minutes to read your writing aloud to each other. Listen for what works and what doesn't, and we're going to get feedback from each other afterwards, and you'll be able to hear what resonates for you when you're speaking it, and also for your readers. So how does that sound? Is everyone ready for the free writing? Okay, so what I'm going to do, if you want to play your own music, relaxing, calming music, go ahead. I won't play any music here in this space because music coming through on a laptop, sometimes it could have like a sensory issue for some people. If we were in a public, in a workshop space, I would play it and then have it very, very low tempo, low volume, so it's not distracting for anyone. But if you do want to play music, please do. And if you don't, then you don't have to. I won't play any music. But as we're doing the free writing, I'll just come in every once in a while, just with a little bit of a prompt, just to keep you inspired and keep you moving and keep you ahead. And I'm watching, so if you do have a question, I'm in the chat, so please come into the chat. You can turn your camera off if you choose to, so no one sees you. And we're going to write for 20 minutes to build the muscle. So we are going to start. Remember that it is time for you to relax your shoulders, relax your jaw, relax your hand, relax your eyes, find yourself in a comfortable position, sitting down with your notebook in front of you and your pen loosely gripped in your hand. I'm going to keep saying relax your shoulders because that's where we hold tension. And start it off, write the date and the topic for the intention for the day. And now we're going to use a few prompts just to stimulate the writing. You could start with, I never knew that. I never knew that. And just let whatever comes, I never knew that. Let your writing astonish you. Let it surprise you. I never knew that. And as you're writing, I never knew that sentences and statements, you can add to that the first time I noticed. The first time I noticed. And you can go back to I never knew that. I never knew that. The first time I noticed. And build on those two. And as you're getting the clarity, the first time I noticed, and mentioning the first time you noticed, really let your mind wander the first time you noticed something. Did it become that there were other first time realizations you made because of that? The first time you noticed something about your parents, something about your home, something about your culture, your childhood, your innocence. The first time I noticed. And as you're noticing those first time of noticing something, start with the sentence, and then it became clear. What clarity did you suddenly get because of the first time you noticed? Was it a shock? Were you confused about something that suddenly it became clear? Or was it the opposite? Did you have clarity about something? Did you just believe something until you noticed for the first time? And now it became clear. And as you're getting that clarity, start adding in the sentence. Then I realized that. What was that realization? You can change that to now I realize that, because you might not have had that realization until recently. But something became clear, and then you realized something else. Did you realize it about yourself? Did something become clear that made you realize that you weren't going to take something anymore, that you weren't willing to accept something anymore, that you had always been doing something in a certain way, that you wanted more of something? Did you realize you wanted less of something? Now I realize that, or at that point, I realized that. What realizations did you make? What lessons came with that realization? Start the sentence. I will always remember learning the lesson of, or put it in your own words, I learned the lesson of, or that was when I learned this lesson. And as you start the next sentence, begin with, I dreamt that I, something about that lesson and that clarity opened up a dream. I dreamt that I, and now start a sentence with imagine if. Imagine if. Imagine if that dream came true. Imagine if that lesson hadn't come into play at that time. Imagine if. Imagine this. And what if it had gone that way or the other way? What if that had happened? What if that hadn't happened? What if things had gone differently? What if things had stayed the exact same? What if? And now begin the sentence. It doesn't matter to me. It does not matter to me. It does not matter to me. It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter to me. Those lessons, those dreams, those things that became clear. It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter to me. And as you're finding what doesn't matter to me, what doesn't matter to you, start finding the only thing that matters is. The only thing that matters is. The only thing that matters to me is. And just as we're finishing up the last minute of this free writing session, I want to give you a quote by Pablo Picasso. I don't know what inspiration is, but when it comes, I hope it finds me working. Well, this is your moment to find your inspiration, to do the work. You're doing an amazing job, incredible work. And your free writing session has now finished. So when you're ready to put your pen down, close your notebook. You've done a fantastic job. Stretch out. Let yourself be in that moment of inspiration. You've done amazing work here. As always, write on.